Okay, we're well over 300 participants. I still see people coming in, so we're going to go ahead and get started though. We're going to have two trainings today, and I really appreciate everyone getting online with us from the Guard and Reserve. We did do a last minute add-on for my eval, and so we will do our regularly scheduled points training first, and then we'll hear from the evaluations topic after. So without further ado, we're going to have Ms. Freeman, who is the branch chief for points management, and then we will have some of our folks. We'll have Sergeant Blea, Sergeant Nimico, Sergeant Cole, Sergeant Van Horn give us some great information today about points. The chat is turned on right now, and we will have people monitoring the chat for the points section, but for when we get ready to go into my eval, we're going to turn the chat off, and we'll discuss that in a few minutes of exactly what that's going to look like. All right, team, I'm going to turn it over.
Morning, everybody from the points management team, or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. We have an exciting briefing for you today, and hopefully you leave with all the points knowledge that you'll need. We have our agenda is Tech Sergeant Blea and Sergeant Nimico is going to be briefing you guys on the points program introduction. Then we're going to turn over to Sergeant Cole, and she'll be briefing you on the MyPers Tickets. Distributed learning will be briefed by Sergeant Van Horn. You'll return to me for common questions and references, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Blea, and she's going to start us off with our points introduction.
Hello and good morning, everybody. My name is Technical Sergeant Blea, and I, along with Staff Sergeant Nimico, will be conducting the points introduction. The first topic that I'll be going over is the responsibilities both at the ARPC Points Branch and at the unit level. At the ARPC Points Management Branch, we are responsible for building and maintaining service history and points for all Guard and Reserve members. We fix points for years prior to the current anniversary year. We manually update any distributed learning, any non-paid points, and paid points that may have rejected out of the pay systems. We also integrate counterpart service points and service history. We support units and members with any anniversary date questions. We also assist the field with any PCARS 04E or AFTP inquiries as well. We are responsible for auditing the service history for all retirements. At the unit level, you all are responsible for reviewing and updating members' points for the current anniversary year. This includes the 60 days following their anniversary date. One thing that we see a lot is AGR SAT Tour members at the unit level, their points are not always updating. If this is the case, please reach out to us via MyPers. We have a standard text with instructions on how to correct their records. We also ask that you please encourage your members to review their point history every month following their drills and prior to changing components. Next slide, please. The anniversary date varies from member to member and are used to determine satisfactory years for the purpose of retirement. If a member is assigned on or after 1 October 1995, the anniversary date is established by the date the member entered into active service or active status in a reserve component. This will include the delayed entry program. We utilize the DD Form 4 as a reference, and the anniversary date is adjusted only for breaks in service. An anniversary year begins on one day of 1 year and ends on the preceding day of the next year. If the initial date of enlistment was 1 July 2021, then the anniversary date would conclude on 30 June 2022. The anniversary date can be found on assignment orders, the career data brief, or by reviewing the GRBoth Surf in MilPDS, which we will be discussing in depth on a future slide. Next slide, please. These are the various point categories. For active duty, we credit active duty service at the rate of 1 retirement point per day of active duty service. Inactive duty training is credited 1 retirement point for each attendance at an IDT period or period of equivalent instruction. Essentially, you receive 1 point for every 4 hours worked, not to exceed 2 points in any one calendar day. For funeral honors duty, we credit retirement points for each day in which a service member performs funeral honors duty for at least 2 hours. Distributed learning, the service member receives 1 retirement point for every 4 hours of distributed learning per DODI 1215.07. Membership points are credited a maximum of 15 retirement points per year for reserve component members in an active status. Membership points can also be prorated for partial years in accordance with DODI 1215.0 Table 2, which will be discussed in depth on a future slide. Next slide, please. So the next slide, I'll be discussing the maximum inactive duty credit. This essentially is for everything other than the active duty column on the GRBoth Surf. The maximum inactive duty credit applies to a combination of IDTs plus any distributed learning plus any membership points. 130 points is the maximum IDT credit for anniversary years closing on or after October 30th, 2007. A maximum of 365 retirement points or 366 retirement points in a leap year may be credited for any anniversary year. Next slide, please. Satisfactory Service. A year of satisfactory federal service for retirement is awarded when a member earns at least 50 points, including any membership points, for the entire anniversary year. You have to actually complete the entire calendar year. So if you separate a day before, you will not get a satisfactory year, even though you have the max points for the year. A partial year of satisfactory federal service for retirement is awarded when a member earns a minimum number of required points, including prorated membership points, during a partial anniversary year. This only applies when a member ends their active commitment and has a civilian break prior to their anniversary date. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Staff Sergeant Imiko to brief the partial year of satisfactory service in greater detail. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Technical Sergeant Blair. So for my portion, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over partial years. I'm going to be going over minimum points required to have a good partial year. Also, I'm going to be going over prorated membership points in regards to partial years, as well as creditable service and non-creditable service. All right, so beginning with the slide slide we're on currently, what's a partial year? So a partial year is when a service member changes components at any time prior to their anniversary year closeout date. For instance, in this example we have below of the GRBoth Surf, the member's anniversary year is from 29 May 2014 to 28 May 2015. So still looking at this example below, the first line indicates the entire anniversary year as a whole. The second and third line indicates the specific dates and specific components the service member was in during that time period. So looking at the second line specifically, it goes from 29 May 2014 to 6 April of 2015. That reflects the member's active duty Air Force time. And right below that, 7 April 2015 to 29 May of 2015, the member switched from active duty to reserve. So this reflects the second part of their partial year. And these two dates combined makes up the entire anniversary year as a whole. And also, I want to foot stomp this. Please be aware, if the service member has recently separated from active duty, they won't see their most recent service history up until 60 days after their anniversary closeout. So please keep that in mind and spread the word. Next slide, please. All right, so right here we're looking at Table 1 of the DODI 1215.07, which basically is a chart that shows you minimum points required to have a good partial year. So starting from the top, if you work anywhere from 0 to 8 days active duty, you're required to have a minimum of one point to have a good partial year. And right below that, if you work anywhere from 9 to 14, you're required to have a minimum of 2 points to have a good partial year. Next slide, please. All right. So Table 2 right here is from DODI 1215.07 as well, and this is the prorated membership points in regards to partial year. All right. So the member needs to have worked at least 13 days in active duty status in order to receive 1 membership point for any partial year. As you can see from this chart, if they worked anywhere from 1 to 12, they get 0 membership points. If they work 13 through to 36 days, they get one prorated membership points. As long as the member is either active duty or in IRR status, membership points will be accrued based on the number of days indicated on this table. Once again, this table can be found on Table 2 of the DODI 1215.07. Next slide, please. All right, this slide right here is essentially about creditable service. So anytime spent in either one of these categories will be included in your GRBoth Surf, and that's pretty much all to it with this one. Next slide, please. All right, and this one right here is a non-creditable service. So you can go ahead and take a look at this yourself. The main one I want to foot stomp on this one is the retired reserve. And this is the period of time following your retirement, and you have your 20-year stat service. You get put into a retired reserve status, which means you can be recalled, during this time. You're not considered civilian, but you're also not being called back to, you also don't have to participate. It's basically a gray area between retiring and up until you get paid at the age of 60. There's also a special passcode you get put into when you're in this status right here. Now, this time, I'm going to go ahead and take it back to Technical Sergeant Blea, where she's going to go ahead and explain the GRBoth Surf in greater detail.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Nimico. So this is a screenshot of what the GRBoth Surf is. It looks like, if you have not seen one, if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to go through each section. So the top left corner is the anniversary date, which is recorded in month-date format. When looking at the record status section, you want to see in either a 47 or a 44. If you see anything else, it could indicate that something is wrong and may need to be corrected. For instance, if you see a 41, it indicates that the PCARS data capture is incomplete. A 48 will indicate that initial audit has not yet been completed to add any previous service history to the member's PCARS record. An 80 would indicate it's a lost point date, which means no points are being recorded to the member's PCARS record. If you need assistance with this, we ask that you please send ARPC PCARS a MyPers incident, and we can assist you with correcting the member's record. The TAFMS is your total active federal military service. Your TAFMS will be displayed in year, month, date format. This basically highlights the total number of days spent in an active duty status throughout your career as of your last anniversary year. Your current anniversary year points will not be included in the TAFMS until 60 days following your anniversary year closeout. So the retirement points, I discussed max points on a previous slide. Whenever a member receives points over the 100 max, you will see a difference between the total and the retirement columns. So in this specific example, the total column has more points than the retirement column because at some point during one of the member's anniversary years, the maximum amount of points were received. Everything after the 130 maximum will not count towards the retirement points. This could be due to an IDT cap or a max year cap, or if you're on AGR orders and you complete distributed learning, the distributed learning points will not count towards your retirement because you already have reached the cap. We ask that you please encourage your members to review their PCARS summary, and if there is a difference between these two columns, please remind them that at some point during any one of their anniversary years, max points were reached, and their points over the max, and any points over the max will not count towards retirement. The Satisfactory Service highlights the number of years of satisfactory service a member has completed throughout their entire military career. Towards the bottom, you'll see the current year point category. If you see any points with the type duty code 1 through 5, that indicates that those points were active duty. If you see a 6, that is AFTP, which is essentially an IDT. If you see a 7, that is a paid IDT. And if you see an 8, that is a non-paid IDT. Any points with a number 9 is distributed learning. The year-by-year service history separates all of your service history by anniversary years. I will be discussing the service component codes in more detail on the next slide. However, I wanted to show where they were located on the GRBoth Surf for future reference. Next slide, please. So this is a list of the various service history status codes. The service component codes are primarily important for the ARPC PCARS technicians to know. However, knowing this information can be beneficial at the unit level when reviewing the GRBoth Surf. These are the various codes that you will see in the the history status column on the GRBoth Surf. If you see an XC, that is what we refer to as a civilian break in service, which is essentially non-credible time. Next slide, please. Case management system for over 4 enlisted. So over 4 enlisted qualifications, an officer needs to be in grades 01 through 03, and they must accrue at least 1,461 retirement points as a warrant officer or an enlisted member prior to their commissioning date. The over 4 enlisted pay and point adjustment process is as follows. The member's CSS or FSS submits a CMS case to DFAS RC Indianapolis with a copy of their oath of office, their Air Force Form 133, and a copy of their most recent GRBoth Surf. The CMS case needs to be referred to DFAS RC Indianapolis, and once DFAS receives the CMS case, they will in turn refer the CMS case back to ARPC O4E for further action. Once ARPC O4E verifies the member accrued 1,461 retirement points prior to their commissioning date, we will update the O4E flag within no PDS. At that time, we will refer the CMS case back to DFAS RC Indianapolis for final pay record adjustment. We ask that the unit FSS and CSS departments submit an O4E CMS case to headquarters ARPC as soon as possible following their unit members' commissioning date. Once the O4E CMS case has been processed at both headquarters ARPC and DFAS Indianapolis, any and all pay that was previously paid out without the O4E entitlement will be retroactively adjusted to pay out the difference. Next slide, please. CMS case for AFTPs. The AFTP CMS case are required because recent regulations increased the number of authorized AFTPs from 48 to 72 per FY per member. We ask that you only submit a CMS case when the service member have already exhausted their initial 48 AFTPs. ARPC PCARS requires a digitally signed military pay order, the DD Form 114, in order to process the AFTP points. The military pay order needs to indicate the specific date and periods that the AFTPs were performed. We ask that you please specify AM or PM when only one period is needing to be updated. The AFTP pay and point adjustment process is as follows.
Hey team, it's Chief. Your sound is jumbling up quite a bit right now. I don't know if you can adjust where your MiFi or whatever you're using is at. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Testing. Is that okay? Better?
No, do y'all have a MiFi? Do you want me to run mine down?
You logged in on your phone?
I hung up on it because it was giving.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I'll start my CMS slides over.
Thank you. The field is saying that they can hear you, but I know some people couldn't hear, so I was just making sure that we were good on sound. You want to start that part over, Sergeant Blair?
Yes, ma'am, we'll start over. Well, you want us to start over with the AFTP side? Is that when people started having trouble? Audio?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so, yes.
Thank you.
Case management system for AFTP incidents. Regulations have recently increased the number of authorized AFTPs from 48 to 72 per FY per member. We ask that you please only submit a CMS case when service members have already exhausted their initial 48 AFTPs. ARPC PCARS requires a digitally signed DD Form 114 in order to process the AFTPs. The military pay order needs to indicate the specific date and periods in which the AFTPs were performed. We ask that you please specify AM or PM when only one period is needing to be updated. The AFTP pay and point adjustment process is as follows. The member's CSS or FSS will submit a CMS case to ARPC PCARS with the military pay order and a copy of the authorization for individual inactive duty for training, the NGB Form 105S. ARPC PCARS will manually process the points for AFTPs and refer the CMS case back to the point of origin for case close action. Next slide, please. Order for correction of military records. Prior to submitting a BCMR, we ask that you exhaust all other remedies first. Oftentimes, errors can be corrected administratively. Contact Headquarters ARPC Points Management via MyPers before submitting a BCMR. Oftentimes, a course of action or any assistance can be provided by submitting a MyPers incident first. A BCMR is a last resort. Once a BCMR is initiated, ARPC PCARS is unable to assist until the BCMR is resolved. This concludes the points introduction. I will now pass it over to Technical Sergeant Cole.
Thank you, Sergeant Blea and Sergeant Invico. Hey, everybody. My name is Sergeant Cole, and I'll be going over MyPers Tickets with you guys. MyPers Tickets are your direct communication with ARPC. When creating a MyPers ticket, be as specific as possible in the subject line so that the ticket goes to the right section. And I'll have an example of that on the next slide. Points changes and updates require source documents. Updates and or responses can take up to 30 days to complete, so give us time to get all of those in and work them for you. Examples of valid source documents are DD-214, not the worksheet, orders, 40As that are signed, UTAP calendars, the color screenshot, and that's for AFRIC, and the NGB 105S for the Guard. Along with source documents for points updates, please list exact dates that are incorrect or missing. We correct anniversary dates. We correct points that are missing from the past R&R year. Your unit is responsible for correcting current year R&R dates. Corrections. Next slide. Okay, so on this slide, I have an example of what we're looking for in subject lines and an example of a vague subject line. So at the top, you'll see how specific it is. It says corrections for retirement points or your service history. So whatever you're asking for, make sure it's kind of along those lines so that it'll come to our section. And the vague subject line, it just says DD-214. So we really don't know what to do with that unless we, of course, open it up and see what you're asking. But that could possibly go to any section if it's not correctly, if the subject is not in there correct. Okay, so now I'm going to go over how to create a MyPers ticket. So first, you're going to log into MyPers. You're going to go to Incidents and Messages. You're going to click on Email Us. And on the email screen, you'll be able to choose options that apply to you or the member with the drop-down. This is also where you will be able to add any attachments for us to effectively complete your request. Next slide. Okay, so this is what the email screen looks like. So as you can see the drop-downs, and so you will put whatever applies to you. And there's the subject line, so make sure, again, it's very specific what you're asking for in that subject line. And then your question, you would make sure you're specific with that too, so that way we won't have to go back and forth with trying to figure out what you need so we can better help you. And then you'll be able to attach your document. And once you hit continue, there's going to be a pop-up that comes up that's going to have options for self-help links. And so if none of those apply to you, you'll just exit out of that and the ticket will be sent directly to us and you'll be assigned a reference number. And below is another example of a vague subject line, which says just points, so we're not sure what you're asking for with that. And that concludes my briefing, and I'll hand it over to you, Sergeant Van Horn.
Hi, I'm Technical Sergeant Van Horn, and I'll be discussing Advanced Distributed Learning Points, formerly known as ECI points. So these points are only available to reserve members while you're on active duty, and they're points that are awarded for completing required PME, DLPME, or upgrade training. So yeah, it does have to be SECAP required for the purpose of unit readiness or mobilization. So it is actually pretty specific which DL courses are eligible for points. In bullet 2 there, we give some examples of courses that are eligible for ECI or Advanced Distributed Learning points. So when you complete via distance learning, ALS, NCOA, Senior NCOA, SOS, ACSC, Air War College, and then most upgrade, distance learning, upgrade training, you'll get points for that. So you will get points, as Sergeant Blaze said earlier, you will get points at the rate of 1 point per 4 course study hours. So these are awarded per course. That's something that people often get confused about. Is it per the entire program or is it per course? So there's multiple courses within a program. You're going to get the points on the date that you complete the course, not the date that you complete the program. And then the entire course must be at least 4 hours in length to be awarded points at all. So there are some shorter courses out there, and unfortunately, completing those will not be counted towards Advanced Distributed Learning points. A good thing to note about Advanced ADL points is that they'll show up as TD code 9 on your point credit summary, as Sergeant Blaze said earlier, and they do count towards satisfactory years of service. So you can take your education courses and get yourself up to the 50 points required to have a satisfactory year of service. So that's a good thing to know. So some of the changes recently that have happened is the migration to MyLearning. So CDCs used to be housed through Air University website known as FIDSAR, which recently went down. It didn't go down, we took it offline. And so now it's going over to MyLearning. So we do have a workaround to capture all of those points that used to be pulled automatically. But we are asking that if anybody notices that it's been a while that they've completed upgrade and they haven't received any points, to submit a ticket and send us all of your documentation showing the course is completed and the number of study hours that were required, and we'll get you updated manually through that. Kind of similar with Air University courses, so that's going to be your PME. Those courses are also having some trouble updating right now. We are working to find a workaround for those, but if you complete any PME via distance learning and you notice the points don't seem correct, so typically what we're seeing is the course will be updated into the record, but they'll be updated with 0 points or 1. If you notice that, please let us know through a MyPers ticket. We'll get that fixed for you right away. Otherwise, we are working a workaround with Air University to get those identified. And then hints and tricks of the trade, like I said before. So when you are asking for education points, we don't necessarily have access to all of your training records, so we do ask, please submit your certificate of completion, any transcript that you have, and we definitely need the study hours. So those are going to be all the requirements that we need to actually make the update at our level. And then, yeah, for any other courses that weren't listed here, if you do have any questions, you can ask us. But right now, yeah, we are working to look into other courses through CFMs to see if we can award points or not. But you can ask us for any questions. But that's everything that I have regarding Advanced Distributed Learning points, and I'm going to pass it over to our branch chief, Ms. Freeman.
Thank you so much, team, for your incredible briefings. They were very knowledgeable. I would just like to go over some common questions that we get from the field. And some of this information was already addressed in the previous briefing, but it's just, it's things I need to reiterate and put stomp. So we get a lot of, why was my ticket sent back? I sent a ticket in, and why was my ticket returned to me? The most common case is we need clarification. We don't know what dates you're asking for correction. We don't have the supporting documents to ensure those missing points are updated. So again, the DD-214, the certified and signed order, a colored UTAPs, a 40A, a 105S, include those documents in the ticket and be as specific as possible. This allows us to, in a very timely manner, get your question answered, your correction process, and then back over to you, and so your record is correct. A second common question we get is, do I have a good year? So everybody can check their points in virtual MPF, and we suggest you go out and check your points at least minimum once a year. I suggest doing it once a month just to make sure everything's flowing properly, but once a year before, on your anniversary closeout, but before 60 days prior to your R&R closeout or your anniversary year closeout. You need to go check all of your points to make sure you have a good year. You need 50 points to have a minimum requirement to have a good year. How can everybody online help us to spread the word, to help the field, to help your members be more knowledgeable so that they're not coming to ARPC with common basic knowledge questions that they may not get answers to right away. You can educate the field with information like, what is an anniversary year? When do my current year points update into my service history? And foot stomp there, it is 60 days after your R&R or anniversary year closes out. How many points does it take to get a good year? How often should I check my points, and where can I check my points? And then also, we need help, your help with staying on top of AGR orders and active duty orders, and make sure those are updated in a timely manner. So we don't have someone coming back saying, I'm missing 6 months worth of my points. Well, your AGR orders, you're on AGR orders, but they maybe haven't been updating this entire time. So just ask questions at the end, but these are common questions that we get all the time that just is basic knowledge. And a great resource in MyPers is the Knowledge articles. So we could send those out in the ticket if we get a ticket, but also you guys can review those and send those links out to your team as well. And lastly, a common question we're getting right now, and a common concern, a big concern, is I have a bad year due to COVID restrictions. Due to no fault of my own, travel was stopped, and I missed my time. I missed my UTA weekend, or whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, the short answer is we don't have a way to update these points yet, but it's coming soon. The NDAA has been declared, changed to declare that national emergency. The DODI has been updated to include that members do receive these points. However, ARPC is waiting on Headquarters Air Force to route the delegation memo. The delegation memo is going to implement guidelines. It's going to give us the approval authority so that we know how to process these points, who's going to approve these points, so that then when they get up to points management, we can just get those updated. So I need your help in gathering the affected members' data. What days did they miss? How much time did they miss? And collecting that so that when this memo drops, when we get the clearance, we can have all of these, the approval already set. We just route these affected members. So we're not having, onesie, twosies coming in later on. We need all the affected members to be gathered now. So those are the most common questions we're getting right now, and I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions besides these. So let's get into the next slide. This is just for future reference. Later on, these slides will be sent out to everybody. So this is just our laws, our regulations, and our policies that we use every day. Great resource if you want to do your own little investigation. So that's the end of the points management information, and we're going to open it up for questions. I know a lot of questions were coming in through chat, and if those questions weren't answered in chat, then please, I'm going to open up the floor for you guys to ask us anything. So let me stop sharing this.
They're in the chat. So some people can see the slides. So if you can't see the slides, I don't know why. I don't know why not. No, this will not include the My Eval yet. We're going to do that next. That's a separate briefing, a separate, we actually have the 182nd that's providing that briefing. So stand by for the My Eval. Thank you. All right, looks like the team is back. Are you guys going to do a sound check? I can hear you. All right, great. Thanks. Great. I noticed in the chat, we're having a discussion regarding the prior enlisted credit for commissioned officers. So they're talking about their FM said it was for active duty points. These people say it's this. So I think we need to just clarify the 04E slide. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let me bring that slide back up.
Oh, and let me, while we're waiting on you guys, let me reference this too. I know that I heard that the Air National Guard did some sort of capturing of the folks that were affected by the potential COVID relief. I'm not sure what the reserve did. So I see someone posted, it says Scott Gelhard, thank you for the info relative to COVID. You had provided a spreadsheet of data. So I know we might want to just talk about that a little bit more as well. And then I'll be quiet now.
Yes, ma'am. We are working with other agencies to standardize that Excel spreadsheet, but until that delegation memo is signed, we are not 100% confident in the data points that we need collected. So I know the Guard had gotten a head start and started collecting their affected members already. So there will be more information to come to the field on exactly what that approval authority process will look like and what data points that we'll need to collect from the field. And a little bit of that is what points management needs, and a little bit of that information is going to be what headquarters Air Force will need. So I can't 100% confident say that we know exactly what data points we need collected right now, but we do need to start collecting as much information as we can. I hope that answered your question. And then I'll turn it over to Tech Sergeant Leah to further explain the O4E.
Hi, everyone. So I know there's some confusion in regards to what retirement points would qualify for the over 4 enlisted pay entitlement. So previously, and according to the regulations, the retirement points that are required, I know the regulation states active duty for training, and IDT points. However, that's not all inclusive. We actually ran this down a couple years ago with the previous branch chief and the help of AFRIC, and we after interpreting the regulations, we realized and determined that the retirement points needed is not all inclusive to those duty types. And so the 1,461 retirement points that are required as a warrant officer or enlisted member, it's open to all points, membership points included. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to send me a MyPers incident specifically to me or a CMS case, and I can kind of expand on that. But I can tell you that it's not specific and all-inclusive to just the active duty for training, and the IDT points. We calculate all of the members' points to include membership points in our calculations. And as long as they have accrued 1,461 points prior to the date of commissioning, then they are in fact entitled to the O4E pay entitlement.
Did we have any other common question in the chat or any other questions?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's any and all points. So essentially, if you look at the GRBoth Surf on page slide 13, so any and all points that are wrapped up into any one anniversary year, all of the points that were accrued in all of the anniversary years will be counted in the calculation. We essentially calculate all of the points from the date of the member's enlistment up to the day prior of what's listed on their Air Force Form 133. If all of those points, to include membership, ECI, funeral, active duty, IDT, all of those points are included in our calculation. So yes, membership points, distributed learning, they all count towards O4E calculation.
Thank you, Sergeant Leah. Do you have any other questions? Okay, and we'll get those. Ma'am, did you confirm that the slides were sent out?
They've lots of people can see them. I can't speak to why some can't. But they will, like I said a little while ago, they will be sent to the FSS commander listings and the FSS superintendent listings. The names of the people that are assigned to those duties should be in those listings that the Air Force created. And that's what I use. I don't possibly have everyone's name inside the MPFs or the NAFs or the Joint Force Headquarters. I don't have those. So hopefully you guys are communicating with those people that I named and get the information from them. Now, what I will say, I will go forward and say, we are working on an ARPC as a center in ARPC teams. We know that there's been great success with the evaluation team, but we did not have the bandwidth in teams to expand that at the time. We had a 2,500 member cap. We have gotten to the point where we have a 25,000 member cap now. So we are in development of that team, but it's just not ready yet. Things don't happen that quickly. So it takes some time for us to develop that. So just so that y'all hear what I'm saying, we will have that, and that will be a great bridge while we talk about all these system migrations and then things going to MyFSS and so on and so forth, to still share and collaborate on information. So that is what we're working on. We're just not quite ready yet. So that's where that's at. I will allow just like one more minute if you want to come off your microphone, if you have a burning question for the points team before I let them go and we move on to our My Eval session. So if you got a burning question, now's the time to come off your mic and say it.
Yes, ma'am, and we're here to help, so please do.
Good morning. Retirement points in a gray area status, reserve retirement. Members still get membership points while in that category?
No, sir. No membership points and no participation points while you're in a retired reserve status. It's considered a non-credible status. It's a waiting period.
Copy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And please, foot stomp, please check your points before you retire. Make sure everything is there. It's so much easier while you're in to check your points, get everything straight, to get you a point summary before you retire. And once you're in that retirement status, still doable, but just not as simple.
Hi, this is Sergeant Spees. I had a question in reference to membership points. Do they flow after the R&R date, or do they flow a calendar year, like 1 January?
That's a
or
great
is it fiscal year, 1 October?
They will flow into your service history line 60 days after your R&R, when your current year points are updated in service history. That's when you'll see that 15 membership points. You have to do a full anniversary year to get a full 15 points. And if it's not a full anniversary year, then you'll get prorated membership points for that. And you will not see it occur as your occurring current year points. It's something that's updated at that 60-day mark. I hope I answered your question, ma'am.